Good morning, class. Welcome to Homeroom with Unc and Market Monk. Morning, P. How's your week?
Helen of Troy sort of set the tone and kind of went kind of light after that. Which I was still engaged, involved, but just no reason to try to be a hero after that one. So um, a lot of stuff panned out. Kind of how I was, what I was looking for. Um, we had kind of the sort of the reverse on CPI, PPI, where the good one sent the market down and the bad one sent it up, but I mean, I think people just got to be ready for that. So that's why I say don't chase calls, don't chase puts. You got to stay in your lane and setups you trust. That's that's the key.
You got an uncomfortable buys too. That kind of helps, at least on the share side. Um,
Yeah,
good week overall over here, man. The list is long. I don't want to sit here and just ramble off names, but if we talked about it 2 weeks ago and you bought a little, you had a good
yeah,
week.
yeah.
You had a good
Right.
week. Even some long-term stuff like the Sphere and Tesla, from those mentions, doing great. But the bullshit like the Nigeria. How do you trade Go EV, EV Go, solar names, all that? Uh, I
Yeah.
mean, it's crazy. Even the red. I mean, they had to make a decision on the Redfin position. I mean, that for, you buy stock at 6 and it goes to 7. It still says 25% next to it on my screen. I don't know about y'all's, but it says 25% on my screen, and that's when you just kind of have to make some decisions on what to do with the position.
Uh,
But a lot of that this week, where you're like, man, I'm up 15, 20, 30% in this swing I bought. What do I do? Which ones do I want to hold on to longer? Which ones do I just take the money and run here? So really good week.
yeah,
Really good week.
and they and the thing about those, like you get the 25% move, and then that leap flow's still out there, and so the Lemonade 35 or the Redfin 12 or Redfin 17, and so I think your mindset can't really be, well, I'm just going to diamond hand this. I mean, zoom out on the chart, you see why you don't want to do that. But yeah, I mean, keeping you know free shares, free leaps, that's kind of always my aim. And so if I can take half off the table and keep some for free, that's that's kind of what I'm after. And so that's been my approach there. But yeah, we nailed it on the smalls, and I had people asking me why why it was happening, um, before the move. Like, why is this setup in small caps happening? And I I don't really have a firm answer for that. I mean, I just think that the bad news is kind of over about the rates. The market shrugged off that it predicted six rates and got zero. Um, I call it like kicking the can down the road. These were bullish setups before; they just reset, and here we go again.
Yeah, I'm kind of you got two parted me there, so I want to cover the first part
Yeah,
first. Yeah, like for me, it's not necessarily. I mean, anyone can buy stocks. You just click a button. That's the easy part. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, if you last in this though, the easy part isn't getting a decent entry. You're not going to get the bottom maybe all the times, but you're going to get a good spot on the chart. It's really not hard. Patience is a lot harder um, than that. But when you do get this kind of lift, or you're making decisions about positions, that's when the story really comes into play. And for me, like I said, Redfin up 25%. Well, Soundhound's up 50. Kind of had a $6 target, right? That was kind of the spot we
Yeah.
we agreed on. But the story's more important. Like, Soundhound's gonna probably be a bumpy ride, just in general, right? From a company standpoint, not even talking about stock, just talking about the company. Probably gonna be a bumpy ride, right? Because they're a small company that got some Nvidia news. They really didn't get a 50% or 20% or 200% influx of business. They just got the potential that they're partnering with Nvidia. Redfin's got some catalyst. Redfin's got some
Yeah.
catalysts. They do with the rates and the the housing market. It's definitely not as hot as it should be. If you know a realtor, talk to a realtor, you know what's up out there. So that's the one you want to hang out in, right? That's going to help you make a
Yeah.
decision. That's just a little short term way, but you should always like think which ones you want to keep. Lemonade, probably not hanging on to too much of that. That's not even
Yeah.
a 6 out of 10 on the street name, right? It's just not. It's
Right. Right.
it's it's some startup. But yeah. So that on the managing positions, I mean that's just the important stuff, and it's not necessarily how much money I could make at that time. It's again, it always comes back to protecting yourself, and having a real good thesis and renewing that thesis on why you're keeping the position.
Well,
What the second part of that? Where were we on the second part of that? My bad, P.
oh well, yeah. Oh, so yeah, I'll tell you, but like real quick on
Yeah, go for it. Shoot.
the lemonade, a little bit comparable to Root in that I didn't have a big position in Root really at all. Like I think I had 20 shares or something. But you look at search the group for what those 20 shares were bought at, and you know it it was some decent lunch money. So I think that you're not holding lemonade to try to go to $23. Like you hold a little bit because of that potential for 35 to finally do that, and you don't need a lot. Like you get it's such a small position. You just at that point don't care. One leap
Yes.
left
Yeah.
or whatever. And that's how you have to treat that one. And I agree with you. I mean, Redfin is more like on the
Investment.
investment
Yeah.
side.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah. So
And
yeah,
and
with you there. So yeah,
And the same thing with like you got to understand the play too. And you bring up Root. I mean, Root didn't go off because of news. That was more like a
yeah,
oversold or a short squeeze, whatever you want to put on it. That's kind of what happened with Root.
yeah.
Those I'm definitely not going to keep as an investment or a longer term swing either. And in general, and just having that as a rule and having several rules like that. Why did this run? Kind of analyzing the plays you're in. What did I actually play here? I think just keeps you out of trouble.
Yeah, and Carvana, I've been in that several times, and each time I went back, yeah, I missed a $20 increment, but but the point is the chart set back up and the flow set back up, and it was kind of iffy in that little $20 area before it set up somewhere new, and so I'd rather enter somewhere new. I didn't go all in full at our original
At
entry and keep
eight,
all of it.
yeah, no,
I mean
no,
that's a lot of hindsight there. Like there's just no way that you would do that. So
no. But if
I
you
mean
have those good rules, maybe holding on to. I mean, I wouldn't have stayed full in Carvana, nor did I. But in retrospect, should I kept some shares? Maybe 100 of them. Sure, why not? I mean, we got that
yeah,
for eight. We got
I
that
had
for
20.
$800.
Yeah, I had 20. That was what I kept, and keeping some for posterity, even though it could drop 50% from here at some point. Who knows? But yeah, the other part of the point was, I get the questions like why are you seeing this? And so it was about the small caps. My Unk market comment, it was a question
Oh
of
yeah,
why
yep,
is it happening, and I don't spend a lot of time thinking about why.
yep.
As I'm reading flow, I just it's flow plus TA, and I don't worry about a lot of the other stuff.
That's why you got me around. That's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Y'all remember y'all people that have been around a minute remember. I don't know when, but September to January, there's gonna be a
yeah,
bottom in here. Y'all remember that? If
uh-huh.
y'all were here and then and
Yeah,
listen to that, you're doing okay right now. Big facts. Um, so conditions for me are very important, and I wanted to say that up front. Um, I was gonna save it for the private session, but I'll tell it to anybody because it's just I stand on it. Like right now is good. For two reasons, right now is good for most people in our room. For one, you figured out our process to a little bit, kind of how we work, what we're looking at, and maybe a little bit on how you should be trading, like your own style, your own first base. Like good job there. But second is our work is great in a good market conditions. We're good in an average market, and when it's bad, we still do good work. So
Yeah.
right now, it's just good market conditions, and I mean, if you watch the weekly session here, I think the January was the last time I was really bullish or bearish or thinking it was the
Yeah.
beginning of January, like the first week in January. I was like, I don't know, P. These charts are starting to look like we might be making a turn, but that we ain't had that since. And
Yeah.
you called the smalls. I mean, I'm always a little early on things, and if you haven't figured guys haven't figured that out, when I mentioned a chart and then 2 weeks later Monk's talking about the flow on the chart, those are the ones you want to trade. I mean, those are the ones I like
Yeah.
trading.
Yeah.
But it was the same here. It's just that broadening of the market, um,
Yeah.
which gets me to a point I wrote down. Like we're at a point right now, and it was the same. I mean, and just talking our cycle, when we first got together, maybe, God, to be honest with you, probably a few months before we started the room, like the down trend was so bad, we were looking for new. Remember, we were like, well, what's going to change this? What's going to change this? Well, it's the same thing to the upside. Like you're going to need some really bad news to stop this train, and
Yeah.
and the market needs somewhere to go with the money. So the broadening is what happens. Where that broadening normally takes place, it just kind of rotates. That's another thing that's rotates. So that you've already created a process that looks at market rotation. It's easy for you to see where they're rotating to.
Right.
And I mean, it's not like the whole Russell 2000 goes up. Like we had a nice little EV run there off of Tesla. That was good. But you're getting like the smaller names of those sectors, whether it's EV or crypto or um,
Uh,
any
yeah.
kind of any
And
kind of commodity. Finally, we got the lift in the smaller miners. What's up? What's up,
yep.
HL? What was the comment on HL? I forgot what you said.
Oh, I was just like, but kind of like, get a position now, or just say, wow, look at HL
Yeah, well, look at
later. Yeah.
HL. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I said.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so that's what you're seeing. You're just seeing that. And again, the way you've created to identify a pitch, you just see exactly where that rotation's at.
Yeah. And I think too, I've been on Amazon trolling people a little bit just because there's so many people who bought at 200 that are just shocked. Like, why aren't we at 220 yet? And it's and yeah, Bezos is selling and everything, but it's just the mega caps cooled off a bit, and like Facebook, I think is pulling back to set up for the next which could go either way, but fresh
Where
range. A lot of them, that's kind of what they're after, and and then pulling some money out. Whales are up huge on these stocks. They bought them when we were
exactly,
talking about them,
exactly.
so that they're putting their money to work, and that's really what's occurring. And even within semiconductors, there's a lot of internal rotation that happens. And if you watch just Goose and I go back and forth on Dell and ARM, um, SMCI, I've talked about for 2 weeks. Oh wow, look at this! It's in the Nasdaq 100 now. That flow was there for a reason, and this is the you're going to see, and you're going to see the sites post. Someone always knows. Uh, yeah, I knew. Like I mean, like we knew. And so SMCI is pretty expensive. It's hard to swing that, but there's been opportunity there several times for us, and um, so yeah, I just think that the we talk about SPY, and we're about to talk about SPY, but you miss so much if that's your singular focus, and it really, unless you're very very good at it, and I know a few people who are, um, it's hard to trade that every day. And I think finding something where you can park some money and wait, is what people really should be doing with a decent chunk of their account. You take yourself out of the equation when you do that, and I think for most people that's better, because it's hard to manage your emotions. It's hard to manage that FOMO, I mean, I don't know why, like, people buy contracts, juiced up premiums right at market open. They can't even wait 5 minutes, and then they're just hoping by 9:30 or by 9:45, they're hoping that they get back to even. And then when they do get back to even, then they don't sell it, and then it goes down again, and they're constantly reloading their $3,000 account. And the bulk of the Twitter traders, that's what's happening. Someone has a room, they're blowing someone else's money, no big deal. But it hurts people trying to get into this. So we built something different.
Almost definitely. It all comes back to those rules, and you kind of touch on it with Amazon, Microsoft, that spot. Like the big money whales, the guys that do this for a living, they're really good at rules. That's how that
Yeah,
works. That's how that works.
right.
Like they get
Yes.
they get there's a meeting if they fuck their rules up. So
Right, right.
like in general, that our process comes from um, for being first TA. I mean, you got to figure that. So they're like a fucking department store for stocks. They got to have a little bit of everything. So they sell stuff
Yeah,
when it's overpriced. When someone will give them way more than they think it's worth, they sell it. And when someone will give them something for cheap, they buy it and put it in their warehouse. And their job is to make a rotation and hit their numbers. 3, 5, 10%, whatever it may be. Their job is just to hit that on the bulk of that big account. They're managing whatever they're managing, right? So we're trying to emulate that. They're just better at the
yeah.
rules. They got more money. They're
And,
more flexible, and if you understand our process really is just TA and flow based. It's two things if you look at it from a department store angle. I'm just out there in the street looking for the cheaper deal before they find it, right? Because they have to look at more stocks. So I look at a specific set of stocks and I look for it right when it gets to the bottom. And
yeah,
you see when they actually write the check to get a position or to get a layaway, so to speak, on those shares. So that's it. We just try to beat them to the buy, but it's the same thing. Finding stuff that's in a good position where it's going to attract attention to buy from the big fish. And I mean that's always what we've been about. And it's a lot of work. It's
yeah.
not just some I found a news piece or it's the three charts I know or I'm sticking to the story until it goes up no matter what. I mean that's just not what we do at all.
The A lot of the marketing for for option flow is like, you know trade like a whale. You can't. You can't. And here's the reason. The the reason you can't, like, let's say I'm in snow 140C for August 16th. Plenty. There's decent amount of time on that. Got a good entry and everything. But if that position starts to go south, I look at what whales are doing, and I'm like, okay, they're going to take it back to 132, and what are the sold puts at, and everything like that. But the thing is, I can't be the one to do that. I can't I can't say, like, well, I'm going to protect this position. I'm going to sell $300,000 of puts right now, to you know to actively drive the car here. So you're not trading like a whale. You are like one of those little fish that swims along with it, that you're a little companion to it, and then you just get off. So you're just passing through. Um, you're not trying to be part of their big picture typically. It's especially with options. So for me, it's reading the story, anticipating. I've been around with some of these stocks long enough to anticipate what they're going to do, and then I know when to look for it, and it's how I got in John Deere again, all that. But yeah, you can't trade like a whale, because you don't have that much money to put into it.
Nor would you if you
It's
did
that simple.
put it into one trade.
Exactly.
Even if
Exactly. Yeah.
you were
Right.
successful at trade. I mean, again, they're managing funds. They're managing bulks of money. So
Yeah.
it's a totally different ballgame. But the rules are what you should be emulating and following.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
trust me, they're the best. And I mean, that's why you see that in the charts that have ran so far. Like, they're gonna take money. I mean, where do you think the small cap money's coming from? It's probably coming from Microsoft and Apple. they're spreading it out a little bit and looking for the next things that are undervalued or oversold from just a fundamental standpoint.
Yeah, and I think one more rule I'll mention. If you know the people reading my notes, like, you're not seeing what I'm seeing as it's happening. I try my best to convey what I'm seeing without. If I put everything down, I think it'd just be too much for people. But I think that one good rule is you want an entry comparable to what I'm talking about, and there's nothing wrong ever with getting a strike a little closer to the money and getting an expiration a little further out. But it should never really go the other way. Don't trade a weekly when I'm talking monthlies. That's not the same trade at all. So you just want to be careful then. And people, I think, sometimes think they're risking less by doing that. Like, so when I talk about that earnings page, it's like, oh well, this contract you mentioned is $100. I only want to risk $20. You've pretty much usually taken yourself out of it if you do that. I post the strikes I post for a reason. So um, you know that strike or better, I think, is what you would want to do if you're wanting to follow notes.
Yeah, just buy shares.
Yeah, no, right, yeah. I mean,
and
well, and
and
I will say though that if you're going to do options,
sorry.
that ER page is probably, if there's
I
one thing
yeah
you're going to do
no I
options on,
don't disagree.
that's the one.
That's yeah
Yeah, that
that's
that
where
would
you
be the
start.
one.
I agree, and that's kind of I hate to say it, but it's kind of a sexy page, to be honest with you. I follow it. I watch it.
Yeah,
I watch it just for to see how it lines up with TA. Like and then looking for the
yeah.
oversold. What was the one that last week that went from like 90 to 60? Was that Helen of Troy?
Helen of Troy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that one. Like I've been watching that one because I was like, all right, now it's an Unks trading ballpark.
Well, right. Yeah, I saw the magic word book value come up,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we know how
yeah,
that goes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm kind of kicking myself for not buying 60s on that. To be honest with you, I would have already took that money. I'd have took
No,
a
my
sandwich off of that.
my favorite setup in there is when there's kind of flow on both sides, leans bearish, and then stock just gets obliterated because there's a trade after that happens. If it
Hmm.
just takes off, it's going to be a little while before you could really enter that, because I don't really like to try to top tick and short the top on something that runs like that. But the thing is with the ones that fall, those disaster drops, they're often going to hit an old TA spot, or some spot of some significance. If they just break out to all time highs, you're in price discovery and you're talking, you know, Fibonacci lines and a lot of shit I don't really like to deal with.
Yeah,
So,
go away.
so yeah, I mean, I love when the home runs on a put because then then we can get started.
Yes, we can. Yeah, we gotta talk about that one next couple of weeks for
Yeah,
sure, especially if it gets some flow. You got five each way, so get into some boring stuff and the
yeah.
whatnot
All right,
and
so
the shit coins.
yes. Well, I'll talk crypto first. I started to get into some crypto stocks. One point I'll bring up: Bitcoin pulled back about 15% of late, and coin only pulled back about 5%. And then
All the
MS,
smalls we cover.
yeah,
I mean, they're just
yeah, and I mean
they're hanging out. They're
they
just
were resilient, and you wait for. I mean, some of them pulled back 6% or something in a morning, and
man.
that's where you want them. And it that's nothing for those charts. And then they get that back and more. Um, so yeah, there's just a lot of resilience in crypto right now, and we're back above 60K. Um, I still think the 100K thing. I mean, yeah, that's plausible. I kind of think like 92, something like that, if this really gets going. But I think one of the things to remember is that for something like coin, the crypto services are making money on the whole process, and
Sure.
that being the custodian for the ETF and all of that. It's why coin is really resisting some huge breakdown, and it's why it shows up in my notes every day. The smalls, I mean, whales have not budged in the flow I've been posting, and a lot of it is significantly out of the money. But I will just say that this stuff tends to give you a lot of chances to enter. So I just expect more of that.
Yeah.
And
Hold on, let me get on the
far as
crypto. Let me
the
get on
oh,
that
go ahead.
crypto real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah,
Let me get on this crypto real quick.
yeah,
Crypto is not a better example of what the hell I just said about our process. I'm gonna always be early. That's a skill I have that no one else is gonna win on that because that's just where my thoroughness comes in. Is I watch a lot of charts regularly, but with crypto, we already had a little push, and if you don't see what's going on, you're just not paying attention because you're not patient. But we had a great push with it was I think it was Hut and SDIG. I mean, they both 100%ed. But
yeah,
all the other smalls we're on are up 5, 10, maybe 20% from our entry last week before that. Because you finally came around with the flow. Bitcoin price kind of helping us out a little bit. But we're just in that part of the process where it's cooking. Those charts are gonna scream. They're gonna scream, especially when Bitcoin's like RSI. If you haven't figured that out, it's not really anything but
yeah,
just like RSI for the chart. You put a little bit into it, but it's not gonna match like the overall move of it. Just gonna
yeah,
when it runs hot, the charts are going to run hot, and we called 55 kind of being the spot you want to start scaling into the smalls, and
yep,
when we hit 62, 63 even, you're going to get a pop, and it's just how you fill the cup in crypto. And we do that over and over and over and over again, and it's one of two situations. I'm real early on a chart and pound the table. I think it's Hive was the most recent one. You're up 15% in that right now if you bought with me. Or I say this looks like crap, and you're saying the flow looks great. It's like
yeah,
oil and water. Those are the two times you just want to buy crypto, and
right, right,
it's usually pretty successful in this room. But I mean, we've done that 25 times. So if you're like lacking on the well, what do you mean? Like you're a little early on TA, and then the flow comes in, and then you scale in, and you might have to wait a couple weeks, and then you reread the flow. You're gonna see that with crypto over and over again if you can't figure it out. So start there.
yeah, absolutely. So that's going to continue to be a good sector for us. So as far as some of the boring stuff, um, copper's held up really well around this 450 area, and I think that's going to be probably the higher low here, and so it's not a coincidence you're seeing aluminum start to percolate a bit. So yeah, there's going to be, I think, a good opportunity in a lot of those AA and stuff like that. And then
Never heard of it.
yeah, gold and silver still solid. Silver sitting there at $31. Kind of like messing around with this 32 area. I think the move from 32 to 35, 36 might be pretty fast. So um, there's still opportunities, still a lot of lagging miners. So I would kind of look for that. Gold a little bit trickier, but it's just held its gains really well, and certainly could break out much higher. I think the all these banking earnings can move gold a bit, so I'll still be on that as well.
It's hard for me to buy them commodities. The miners were easier just because so some of those silver charts, gold charts have moved so much, and the range a
Yeah,
little. You can get into a shittier. Well, I guess you can get into a smaller stock. I won't say shittier stock, but you can get into a smaller stock, and they get just more range on some of them. But HLC, CDE been very good on that side.
yeah, yeah,
Probably should just buy some gold and silver though. Again, it sounds like consolidation.
yeah. I think so. Yep.
Consolidation here is probably over. I like that.
And
Go
and
ahead.
then real quick, oil.
Yeah, you keep
you know,
fucking
still
keep
it's
pounding the
fine.
table on oil, sir.
Yeah, I mean, sitting there at 82, perfectly healthy to me. And then the flow is setting up. I got some oil stocks to talk about this week, so just be patient. If you're patient for Oxy, you already had a good trade, and it's setting up for another good one. So you can stay on those. There's smalls where I think you can just park and wait, um, and you're probably going to see oil
Full port.
go to 92, something like that. So that's a $10 move. So I think that's going to do something to those charts as well.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Yeah. Just follow. You know me. I follow your lead on that stuff. It will
Yeah.
the deeper in the ground it is, the less
Right.
you get from me. That's how that works. Let's get into spy. Let's do spy action. I kind of touched base on my thoughts earlier about stopping this train's real hard to do. Just like I mean that's an either direction thing when the market gets going. And, definitely said that last week. Like it's gonna take a lot to stop this thing, and another not the biggest candle, but upward momentum. We still kind of missed the mark. We were at 558, and where did we get 563? So yeah, $5 more to the north, and then 47 to the bottom, and we had 54. So it beat us by $5 each way. P.
Yeah, no, it did. And, trend days down are rare. You got one good one, and you're thinking you're going to get continuation from that. I don't care what the data is the next day. It's going to be very, very hard to do. I had SQQQ pop up the day before the market dropped. But then you saw on Friday, it got most of that back. So, definitely tricky conditions as far as you're trying to swing spy. I don't know if I would, if you're going to do it, I would say upside probably. But yeah, I mean the trend days down, very hard to string together, and without trend days down stringing together, you're not going to fall that much. It's gonna show some resilience. I don't have much in terms of the longer term options that has changed. This 500p for December, um, that they've been using, they cashed out quite a bit of those. Still has open interest over 200,000. Split bid side after Thursday. So without a complement to that, it's hard to do much with it. I would need 520p, 530p for October or something like that to really think that we're going to get much of a pullback. So I don't really expect that, to be honest. Um,
You know me, I don't really watch this chart, so we got to go to reasons why. And
yeah,
thought we were gonna make it this whole episode without mentioning it. Does the big orange guy getting shot? What direction does
yeah,
that send the market? Because people are gonna predict every which way. Definitely think it
um,
will affect the market in some way. I will say up front, I don't think it's a lasting effect, but I think
yeah.
it will have an effect on the market right away. Yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
Um, yeah, I mean, you're going to see a pop I mean, in the Trump sector, which is just sort of its own little thing. But as far as the broader market, um, I kind of look at historical precedent with Reagan. Maybe it definitely boosts Trump, and I think the market has a favorable outlook um, on him. And the more certainty you have going in the election, if it's just clear that he's dominating this thing, I think the market's going to like that. So, yeah, I'd agree. Short term pop to the upside. Um, Easiest trade, though, I mean, is going to be to fade a couple of those moves, the overextended pops, especially something like software. So I might look to that, but not for very long. So I think overall it's pretty bullish development, but not one that changes much. I think we were heading that way anyway. So
Yeah, I think you
um,
just get the rubber band tomorrow morning. where you
Yeah.
have I don't know, whatever your 1.5%,
The,
whatever causes panic, pre-market down,
if,
and then by the end of the day, that's all gone, and you're up a little bit, and you continue through the week. That's what I think is going to happen.
yeah, eventful futures candles this afternoon.
Yeah, enough to make
That's
people
what I,
think it's going to go. The end is near. Is
yeah,
really what I think. I mean, because even if we go, even if we go like to 556 from here, 556.35 auto RTL on the 1 hour chart. That's going to be my bottom this week. Even if we go there, people are going to panic on Monday morning. So, and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
just a little bit of pullback to where we were Thursday, and then I think we have a good week from there. Top end though, golly, real tough to pick.
Well, okay, so I have a
We
question. Like, so
go ahead.
I looking at like a 4 hour chart, which I do like to look at sometimes.
Okay.
I mean, you got some pretty long wicks up to that 564 area. So, I mean, it seems like you got to establish something with some authority in this, this $4 or $5 range, and then breaking out above that, is um, I guess the stronger the candles going into that move, the more likely it is that you break out. I mean, if we keep wicking up here, I think we top out for a bit. As but long story short,
What,
what
like
do you think?
at 560? Is that
No,
what?
no, at 564, something like that.
Oh,
Like we're gonna keep
from the
trying
you're just
for it.
these two wicks here you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, I don't really like this chart because it puts a lot of emphasis on pre-market levels. So you
Mhm.
only want to pay. I mean, I can kill pre-market, but I don't use this chart. But you only want to use the charts in the day, the during the day, which are the two big bars.
Oh,
Um,
gotcha. Okay.
here, I'm gonna go to a 1 hour just because it's gonna look a little cleaner for me. Thank you. Um, yeah, I mean, I think as soon as we flip this 62 area, we're gonna test the 65. I just think your resistance is a little lower than the 64. I mean, that's just a not necessarily like a wick, but you're not gonna get filled there, and that's just not a great spot to enter, in my opinion. I guess if you're
Yeah,
trying,
yeah.
yeah, why would you be playing downside on this chart? Hold on, time out. What are we talking about? But 62, I think 62, yeah, right here is where I think the flip would happen, and then you're just gonna go back to the big guy. Sorry, you're just gonna test the 65
I
from
wouldn't.
here. The 65
I
from here.
wouldn't.
I think it's like $5 at a time.
I wouldn't short it. I guess my point is I don't want to go long in some long wick. Like you know what I mean.
Oh,
Like I want
sure,
to I
sure.
want to go long within the body of a candle or towards the lower end of it.
You want to go
Is what I would tend to want.
long on the pre-market or pre-market high and pre-market lows. So
Yeah,
like this would be your yeah. I mean, I'm not we're not shorting this chart, so this would be where you're taking profit on the day and then letting your runner run with the stop loss in there.
yeah. If people want to short, I got something better for you. So just check my notes. But yeah, you don't want to short, in my opinion.
Exactly.
I mean the quick hitter intraday stuff. That's a grad school trade. So I mean, if you're ready for that, you don't need me to tell you about it. Um, but no, I mean, you're not gonna short it and go to a meeting. That's not what you're gonna want.
No, and I agree on that.
Yeah. All right. So some numbers. Downside, I'm gonna say 554.51, and upside, I'm gonna say 565.25.
Sorry, what was that bottom one? 564?
Uh, yeah,
54.
554.51.
51 and the top 565.
Yeah, 565.25.
Yeah, I'm going with I got to get back to the chart here. Bam. Auto RTL for this bottom right here, 556.35. I do like that you're a little below. You'll probably get a wick and beat me there. But just as a good consolidation level. over the last week, and then we keep going. And I'm with you. That 65 is the top. Real quick look at earnings this week. There's nothing like crazy in there that I think will move the market. I mean, do have Netflix Thursday. Um,
Yeah,
but I think you need Netflix isn't like it's a one it's like a B. It's almost a
yeah.
Microsoft and Google and whatnot. So I do have some credit cards in there though. So I think again, I just think that 65 is the I'm with you on that, but I do want to go. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go 567.01. It's a little bit higher. I again mentioned it earlier. It's gonna take a lot to stop this upward momentum. It's just gonna be these slow grinds, pullbacks that get you excited if you're a bear, and retraces that are profitable if you're a bull. So
Yeah, so bank earnings are underway. The trade there that I posted was um, kind of fade the move up, and Citibank gave it right up. Earnings were perfectly fine. It's just they're not set up to hold those gains right now because they've what's good about them is kind of priced in because they've been on such a run. So I expect banks to pop and fade and consolidate. But I agree that that's not really gonna move the market much because everything's so tech focused. ASML, that is a pretty big one that's gonna set the table for chips. So I'll be on that one. But otherwise, yeah, the real party is gonna start a couple weeks from now. But should be a big earnings season.
more spreading the butter, so to speak.
Yeah. But you want trade earnings? I usually have something. So Helena Troy isn't spy relevant, but it definitely was earnings lotto relevant for us.
I'm sure there'll be a few in there. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
All right, ready to get to work?
yeah. That's good.
Perfect. Like and subscribe, people. Link somewhere.